What's up, everybody? Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to talk about repetition and is it killing your progression?
Today's video is brought to us by Mantis. The Mantis family of products is integral to ASP staff building handgun and carbine skills and are your most economical and fastest path to improvement in your skills too. Whether you choose the X10, the Laser Academy, the Blackbeard, or use them all in concert, they will help your practice be more effective, efficient, and fun. Go check them out, pick up a unit, and thank them for sponsoring today's video.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. So today we're going to talk about the just repetition and if doing the same thing over and over and over again is actually hindering your progression. So what got me thinking about this is when people go to the range or dry fire for that matter, they tend to do the same thing over and over and over and over again. I don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with that. But what I do think is it's teaching you a specific sequence of action versus actually making you a better shooter. What do I mean by that? So let's just use the example of, say, the draw to first shot. What I see a lot of times, and I just recently made a video about, is when people practice a draw to first shot, they're doing the same target, the same size target, the same size or the same amount of precision and or speed applied to it over and over and over and over again. Looks a lot like this. So this drawing to alpha. And again, I understand I have a short span here, but I got to keep it in frame. But the same distance, the same targets every time, the same spot on the target. So draw to alpha, draw to alpha, draw to alpha, draw to alpha. And what tends to happen is we are no longer putting care or influence in. We're just doing that same thing. You know, I can put the dot right there, generally the same spot, versus introducing kind of novelty to it. So a large open alpha, maybe a partial of that, maybe a different location on the target, smaller target, things like that to actually teach you how to use the motor program you have built versus just replicating the motor program over and over and over again. Because that's not how it will be put into effect if you ever had to use these skills in the real world. You're not going to have an alpha. You're not going to have the same distance. You're not going to have the same cueing, but you will have the motor program. What you have to do is teach your brain to release or, command prompt go on that motor program to whatever the shooting challenge is at hand. This is something that's kind of the next step deeper under creating the ability to do these things. Now you have to start thinking about application and application in different circumstances. So how do I kind of play with that? Let's just use like a bill drill. People shoot bill drills. I'm sure the majority of the people on the channel watching this right now shoot bill drills. But you always kind of go to the same spot, a bill drill to alpha. Sure, that's kind of how the drill was designed. But when you start looking at the greater idea of shooting or prowess in general, then you run into folks or drills like the Tim Herron bill drill, which is the same thing, except you're drawing and firing 6 to the head alpha, much like this, with the same cadence that was applied to the original bill drill. Now, certainly, that's a more difficult drill to run. But I think people misunderstand that they think it's just about making it. If you can't do that in a 2-second, it has no value. That's not the point. The point with something like that is you have a harder kind of target to maintain all of the mechanics of shooting to get the favorable result. And it shows you different things versus allowing the gun to float. Like in an alpha, relatively fast bill drill isn't that hard because look how much we can move the gun. And understanding that I'm very close and I'm using a laser pistol and there's no recoil, but it's quite forgiving. Now, I believe once you get to the point that you can actually do a reasonably timed bill drill, something like that, you should play with the target area to teach yourself to do different things or influence the gun differently. So let's just say, you go from this kind of build wheel, the whole alpha, maybe getting some Charlies here and there. Great, cool. Once you start getting a handle on that, maybe start looking at 3x5 cards. Maybe start looking at 1-inch squares. Maybe start looking at headbox alphas. And you'll start noticing different things are required to do those different tasks versus just constantly repping out something that's just teaching you how to replicate a recipe versus applying your skill to different situations or different problems. So another thing I like to do, especially with targets that have more things on them, is maybe start trying to think about a 6-shot salvo or a bill drill. Maybe put 2 here, then put 4 here. Put 2 here, 1, 2, 3, 4 there. There's just a million different ways you can play with it. Variety or novelty is going to make you a better shooter. It's going to. If you live in a world where you're only repeating or replicating the same thing over and over again, you'll be really good at that. But the moment you're introduced with something different, you're going to notice that some things might be lacking. So it's worth thinking about and it's worth playing with. And again, not saying any of these things are wrong. I just want you to be resilient and rely on your shooting, not have your shooting so much rely on you, if that makes sense. So let's just kind of play with that. So let's just do like maybe 2 to the 3x5 card and we'll roll around the clock with the 1-inch square. You see that? So right there, that down transition, because it's non-customary, it's not something I'm used to, but the moment I break that idea of unfamiliarity, much better result, still close. Those are things that teach you things about your shooting. They teach you things about your level of patience. They teach you about your impulse control, all of these things, your trigger control, your grip under different applications. So all of this is a long way to say, try some new things. Try something you haven't normally done. If you have a drill, play with it. Run it backwards. Run it to different, change where the shots are going, but change things. So there is a time for repetition. There is a time for refining or finally refining tasks. And then there is a time to apply those tools to something different. If you do that, you'll find yourself progressing significantly faster versus just doing this. As much as I love that, there's more to shooting than that. So, instead of just doing that, maybe try that. Maybe try that. Try some new stuff. You'll be surprised where it gets you. Let me know. See you soon.